And when you read the report, it's all self-definitional. They'll literally quote, I don't know what, Gallant saying they're animals, and they will cut the sentence before where he said Hamas, and they'll cut the sentence after where he said Hamas, and they'll just stay with the animals quote. And you're like, wait, that wasn't an argument. You just laid out 6 feelings you're having. There's a legal question here. These quotes that you're using to determine intent of genocide, you're screaming to anyone who will listen that the Israelis are doing terrible things in Gaza. That's a legitimate activity of human beings in free countries. I'm for it. But don't pretend to have this vast research. I don't read these reports and learn more about what the IDF is doing than I already knew. They literally pull their information out of press reports, and not even good press reports, usually from very far left media. You were right at the nexus of the research. Do these organizations actually do serious research as they claim?
I think it's fair to say that it is incredibly variable. And it's also, when you say research, your mind tends to go to some form of academic process or some sort of rigor. They certainly use rigor in the terminology of their own work. Absolutely is not rigorous or in any way on the same sort of level as academic research. And it has an editing process in the organization, and it has a sort of theoretically guidelines about methodology. But there's no one really checking whether much of that is actually implemented.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you mean there are processes that you're supposed to follow when writing a report about Indonesia, and there's nobody checking that anybody's doing it? You know what? I've been too polite until now. It's garbage. You read a report from Human Rights Watch, and if you're someone who knows the material, you know that they pulled it out of tweets. I want to know if my army is screwing up massively. I think the Israeli army in Gaza has, in several points, committed crimes. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I've seen the videos. I've put out podcast episodes about it. I am totally willing to hear that a war in the middle of a civilian population isn't being fought as it should be fought. And I learn nothing new from these reports. I see no reason to reach their conclusions. They start from the conclusions and go backwards and fill in the gaps. What do you see from the inside? What kind of process do they even have?
There is, of course, good research going on, and there are outlines as to how methodology is conducted. I will say, for example, that research, pure research, the products for which these organizations are known, the big reports, are dramatically decreasing and had dramatically decreased by the time I left. Essentially, I was hired because of the volume of reports. By the time I left, there were virtually no reports coming through the system that I was dealing with. I was dealing with other products. The change was an absolute shift towards social media, op-eds and shorter, more bitey pieces. And that's significant in terms of methodology because social media stuff didn't go through the legal process, the legal scrutiny that reports did. So, and of course, that's where the volume is and the eyes are going. And there are certainly key players in these organizations who know full well they can get away with doing a hashtag and an implication on a tweet that sets off a genocide train without having to go through any process.